President Trump is threatening to unleash hell on Iran if it does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz in the next 48 hours. He issued an expletive-laden ultimatum to Tehran on social media, but expressed hope of reaching a deal in his interviews to U.S. media. The mixed messaging from the U.S. president follows the extraction of a U.S. airman from Iran. Mr. Trump described the operation as one of the most daring in U.S. history. Iran, however, said the rescue was completely foiled, with multiple American aircraft destroyed during the mission. It also condemned Mr. Trump's threats as incitement of war crimes. This, as countries including Russia and China signal that they are willing to work together to de-escalate tensions in the Middle East. Well, we have Dr. Peter Layton, visiting fellow at Griffith Asia Institute, joining us for more insight. Dr. Layton, thank you so much for joining us. You know, the U.S. president has issued a 48-hour ultimatum to Iran while still talking about a possible deal. How do you read this mixed messaging? Is this strategic pressure or is it just confusion?
I think that the president's talking to two different audiences here. The 48-hour one, to a certain degree, seems to be aimed at his base. As you say, it was an expletive loaded message and came across as very emotional, whereas the other one sounds a bit more statesmanlike for the world, if you like, saying that he's open to the possibilities. Bearing in mind that the president is now getting under increasing pressure from the rest of the world about getting the Straits of Hormuz open.
Well, you know, this ultimatum that we are speaking about is unusually blunt and public. Does that really corner Iran into a response, and does it raise the risk of escalation?
I think there's certainly a great danger of escalation. I think that his tweet and his comments would be taken by the Iranians as a sign of emotion, and that the president is perhaps believes he's losing control of the agenda. So he's trying to project power to the American people, but of course, and his base likes this kind of direct talk, if you like. But by the same token, the Iranians are now using it in a propaganda campaign to show that the Americans have lost the plot, if you like. The problem is that President Trump, by showing emotion, the Iranians will, of course, build on that, and there is a real danger of escalation here. If the Iranians don't respond in their 48-hour period, of course, that this is the third slip, I think, of that particular deadline. If the Iranians don't respond, there'll be strong pressure on the president to escalate. At the moment, he's saying he will escalate through bombing civil infrastructure.
Well, you know, if Iran really refuses to comply, what are the most immediate options on the table for Washington, and how quickly could military action really follow?
Military action in the terms of airstrikes could happen very quickly. There are also, of course, moderately sized US ground units in the region as well. So they could attempt to take some of those small islands towards the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. But the air attacks are certainly expected to be the most likely option. Now, the trouble with that, of course, is that no one will actually see those except for the Iranians, so their global impact will be reduced. The big issue for all of us, of course, is that in the background, the airstrikes have been escalating in the sense that a couple of days ago, the Israelis hit some petrochemical works in Iran. The Iranians responded, hitting some energy infrastructure in the Gulf states. The Iranians have signalled many times that if the Americans escalate and they start hitting power plants and civilian infrastructure, the Iranians will start hitting more energy infrastructure around the Gulf. And that means that this oil shortage, this oil, natural gas, sulfur, helium shortages will now last for a significantly longer period, as much infrastructure will need to be rebuilt after this war.
I mean, the pressure is piling up in all corners in that sense. But how significant do you think President Donald Trump's expletive-laden messaging on Truth Social is in terms of, from a sitting president's point of view? And does it really signal intent or simply brinkmanship?
think the best you could say would be brinkmanship. He's clearly very annoyed. After all, this was a war that should have been wrapped up by now. He originally said it would be 3 or 4 weeks, and was clearly expecting regime change in the first week or so. But the war's dragging on, and there doesn't look like any end to it now. The gas prices are rising in the States, and the expectation is that this week and the next there'll be some major commodity shortages as well, which will affect manufacturing across Northeast Asia, the Americas, and Europe. As we've seen, the Europeans are certainly getting very publicly annoyed about this and making numerous statements. So I think the pressure is being dialed up on Donald Trump. We have to remember that the president hasn't really faced a problem like this before. Most other countries, if you like, have been friends, allies, or partners. So for varying reasons, they have either given in or they've been quiet. But the Iranians are not like that at all. This is a very difficult problem. And the president's normal style of the brinkmanship does not seem to be working in this case.
Well, with Russia and China now really signaling that they want to de-escalate the tensions, the question really is, does this risk turning into a wider geopolitical stand-up? And even do countries like Russia and China have real leverage to calm the situation, or could their involvement really complicate things further?
Certainly, the war is gradually spreading, if you like, and involving more and more people. The Europeans certainly feel as though they are involved now. They have sent forces to the Gulf to help the Gulf nations. Even Australia has been dragged in to help UAE. So the war is expanding in that sense. Now, Russia has been accused of exporting Shahid drones into Iran and using the ports on the Caspian Sea. Israel has responded by attacking the Iranian ports on the Caspian Sea. So there is a chance Russia will be dragged into the war in a military sense there. The Israelis will have to be careful that they don't hit any Russian ships providing military supplies into Iran. China has been the analysts advise that they believe Chinese commercial companies are providing satellite data to the Iranians to help them with their drone targeting. So step by step, day by day, China and Russia are being dragged in. We can certainly hope that the Chinese peacemaking will have some effect, but it's difficult to see them having very much effect upon Donald Trump, given his current emotional state. It's difficult to see where we go from here, except perhaps for escalation and a worse situation.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. Dr. Peter Layton, visiting fellow at Griffith Asia Institute.